So, I think I may know what the name of the Great Kingdom was. To explain what the name of the kingdom was, though, I first need to bring up a new theory, the details of which will have to be in a separate video about Nika. The theory goes like this. Nika at some point became a space pirate. He traveled through our solar system and learned from the different people of the planets he visited. Along the way, the people and the creatures of these planets joined him as Nakama. His adventures were similar to Luffy's, who traveled from island to island, but instead Nika traveled from planet to planet. After his adventure, Nika and his people made base on the moon. However, eventually, Nika decided to finally return to Earth, and he came back with most of his Nakama. Nika and his people shared their culture, technology, and knowledge with the people of the world. The collective culture on Earth began to develop at an incredible pace as a result of this mixing pot. The mingling of all the different races further increased the diversity of the races, and the planet flourished. But one day, one of the races, the people of Jupiter in fact, betrayed Nika. The Jovians decided that humans were an inferior species, undeserving of the lands that they occupied. The Jovian king and his followers started pillaging and claiming the land for themselves. A great war took place between Nika the sun god and the king of Jupiter. The rest of the story, like how Nika came to be and how Nika became a space pirate, has to be left for another video, but what we can take from this initial headcanon is this. At some point in the history of the planet, people from other planets arrived on Earth, bringing with them their culture, technology, and knowledge. The races that came to Earth with Nika were the Mercurians of Mercury, now known as Fishmen, the Venusians of Venus, now known as Amatsuki, the Skypians, and the women of Amazon Lily, the Martians of Mars, now known as the Lunarians, Jovians of Jupiter, now known as the Ancient Giants, the Saturnians of Saturn, now known as Giants, Uranians of Uranus, now known as Birkins, Neptunians of Neptune, now known as Merfolk, Plutonians of Pluto, now known as Dwarves, and the Lunarians of the Moon, now known as Shandians and the Minks. Which leads me to my theory about the Vikings and the three Great Kings. Fast forward to Joy Boy's time now. I believe that during his era before the formation of the Great Kingdom, Earth was riddled with slavery. Slavery specifically of anyone with Jovian blood. Anyone with horns were hunted down and enslaved, without question. In such a time, 6 kings came to be recognized, and they went by the title of the Vikings, or the 6 kings. Of the 6, one of the kings with the epithet of King Saturn took to the seas to free slaves. His name was Nerona di Ramu, the king of the giants, a former slave himself, and the future king of the Great Kingdom.
Wow, you have a lot of names.
Although Lamu was not a full-blooded giant, it was actually part ancient giant. The previous king Yurudu and the other giants accepted Lamu as their king. Since Lamu and his giants traveled the seas, freeing and bringing ancient giants and their mixed descendants of the Oni aboard their ship, the members of the ship all wore helmets with horns on them to prevent the former slaves from becoming a target. This is very much the same sort of tactic used by the Sun Pirates, who changed the hooves of the soaring dragon into a sun emblem. Eventually, Lamu formed alliances with the 5 other kings, who were all inspired by Lamu and his blinding energy. Eventually, the whole alliance came to be recognized with the horns that they all wore, and they all sailed the seas to free as many slaves as they possibly could. Finally, the 3 great kings, Poseidon, Pluton, and Uranus, also joined the alliance. Eventually though, the alliance decided that the Jovians needed a permanent home. For fear of the government coming to claim back these former slaves, Lamu and his people made base in a location as far north as they possibly could, and found land for the Jovians. The people of the alliance helped Lamu and the Jovians to set up, and Lamu decided to stay with the Jovians as their leader. Yurudu, the previous leader, became King Saturn again, and the kings of the alliances left to go back to their home countries. This, however, would not be the last time that Lamu and the Jovians would see the other kings though, for they would frequently come back with supplies, and to trade, and to have a jolly good time partying. They had incredible banquets that lasted days. Soon the new kingdom became a hub of all the ships that would come and go, and all sorts of people began living on the island. The kingdom truly began to grow. It eventually became so grand that in the current timeline, it is known as the Great Kingdom, or Kyodaina Okoku, but during Lamu's time, it was known by another name. In the 1947 film The Miracle on 34th Street, starring Maureen O'Hara, there is a famous quote that goes like this. "Do you know what the imagination is?" "Oh sure. That's when you see things, but they're not really there." "Well, that can be caused by other things too." "No, to me the imagination is a place all by itself, a separate country. Now you've heard of the French nation, the British nation. Well, this is the imagination. It's a wonderful place. How would you like to be able to make snowballs in the summertime, or drive a great big bus right down Fifth Avenue? How would you like to have a ship all to yourself that makes daily trips to China and Australia? It's very simple, of course. It takes practice." Now the first thing you've got to learn is how to pretend. So you see, my belief is that the Great Kingdom was called Imagination, or the Great Imagination. Fitting, I think, because the imagination is what Luffy's Nika fruit is all about. Fitting also because the idea of imagination is a recurring and important theme in One Piece. I think that like in Nika's time where the different races shared their cultures with one another and advanced their civilization, I believe that Lamu's nation also did the same. By sharing and combining their strength and knowledge through trade and giving, they became only limited by their imagination. They developed new technology and inventions and truly flourished as a utopia. In the next section, I will talk about the Great Imagination's greatest invention, their magnum opus which they gifted to the world.